All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 4 Steps Extreme Results program brought to you by iFitModel. This is going to be the exercise edition to the 4 Steps to Extreme Results. Now, today what we're going to do is we're going to go over mainly how to apply these 4 steps to our exercise program. Last week what we did is we talked a little bit about what the 4 steps actually are. So before we get into that, let me introduce myself. I'm Aaron Zambrano of iFitModel.com. And you know, what I've been doing is just going over all the different various programs that I have and how I've helped people over the 15 years of experience that I have and lose all the weight that they want, but really just see major results, not just in their weight training or their exercise or their body, but also in their everyday life. And this 4 Steps to Extreme Results program will allow you to transfer these things from one area of life to another. And it's been just such a powerful thing. And, you know, I tell people all the time that what you go through when you go through a major transformation or a weight loss program or whatnot, those same things that you go through in that program are the same things that you're going to go through in life, and they're parallels. Going through a weight loss program is more of a condensed version of it, but you still experience the same types of things. You still have to overcome the same types of problems, and you still have to strategize in the exact same way. And that's why this 4 Steps to Extreme Results program has been so effective. So last week, again, we talked more about what those 4 steps are. And if I'll remind you what they are. Number 1, just understand that what you're doing is for a lifetime change, and not just a change for a 3-month time period or just when the new year comes. But understand that these are habits that you should be building for every day, to keep every single day. So I've said it a million times and referenced this gentleman a million times, but he's been a huge mentor in my life. But a great fitness guru, Mr. Larry North, said if you can't follow a program for the rest of your life, then it's not worth following for one day. And that's extremely true. And that's why I say right now you really have to start developing those habits and understand that it's a lifetime change. It's a lifetime change, not just a short momentary change, but a lifetime change. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is understanding what your goals are. This is an easy step for a lot of people to do. So number 3 is understanding where you are. Now this is where it becomes a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging, because if you're not experienced, you really don't know how to truly analyze yourself. And that's why a lot of people will come to me to seek advice or to seek help. And yes, I sit down and I'll do one-on-one sessions with people and help them through that program. And then number 4 is creating a step-by-step plan to help you get there. I like to call it baby steps. A lot of times we try to jump from point A to point Z right away, and we can't do that. We have to take one step at a time, and you have to create a program that's realistic for you to understand. So let's go ahead and apply this to the exercise portion of our life. Now, understand that, again, I go back to that saying, if you can't follow a program for the rest of your life, it's not worth following for one day. And so, you know, understand first what it actually takes in order to see results. And number 1, it requires consistency. That's probably the most important thing. When I set people up to start working out, I don't require them to be extremely intense. Most people, what they want to do is they think that the most important thing to a workout program is intensity. And although I would agree that that's an extremely important part, without being consistent, you can't be intense and you can't have an effective program. Now, you can go in there on day 1 like what most people do. Most people will go in day 1 of their workout program and they'll work out so hard that they can't work out for the next 3 or 4 days. And then finally, you know, Thursday or Friday, it rolls around and they're able to work out again. And they're like, you know, I'm not going to work out today. I'm just going to wait till Monday. And that's everybody's Monday. If you go to any gym across the country, I don't care where you are, any gym across the country, Monday is the busiest day of the week. Why? Because it's the guilty workout, and that's when everybody wants to start their program. So consistency is extremely important, and consistency should come before intensity. You will have time to become intense. So understand first that this is a lifetime change. That you follow in this exercise program is something that you're going to follow forever. And you also have to understand that when you're developing your plan, don't go and develop something that's 6 days a week or 7 days a week or even as little as 5 days a week if you're not even working out 1 day a week now? So you have to understand that this is a lifetime thing. What can you actually do over a long period of time? You have kids, you have a family, you have a job, you have all these extracurricular activities that take your time up. This is the number one excuse that I hear of people why they can't exercise on a regular basis, because they don't have time. So if that's been your excuse, and if you know you haven't had time, then don't try to create more time that you don't have to follow a ridiculous and not not very smart type of workout program. So if you know that realistically I can work out 3 days a week, that's the first question I ask. How many days a week can you actually work out? And most people say, I can do 2 to 3 days a week. And you know what? I will take that, because that is a start. So understand it's a lifetime change. The next thing is if I can wrap my head around that this is going to be something that I'm going to do forever, and no matter if I have a day or a week where I only work out twice a week when my goal is 3 times a week, it's okay. I'm going to overcome that obstacle. So when you know that this is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, then quitting is not an option. And that's one of the other reasons why most people fail, is because they don't achieve their goals and they quit. So no matter what your goals are, if you understand that this is a lifetime change, you will never stop trying to get better. You will never stop doing it. You will never quit. So understand it's a lifetime change. Step number 1. Step number 2, we already talked about it. It's what are your goals? So let's apply this to exercise. So, what I like to do is I'm a big storyteller. So I'll tell you a very easy way of doing it. But first, before I go into the story, let's talk about what types of goals that you have to have. Now, the number one thing is anytime that you write down your goals or you explain your goals to somebody, is you have to make them measurable. You can't just say, I want to lose weight and tone up. A lot of people, that doesn't really mean anything. Well, if you lost 1 pound, then you've achieved your goal. And that's really it. If you don't drink water today and then you weigh yourself tomorrow, you're probably going to be about 5 pounds lighter. So what are your real goals? What are you really trying to do? So you have to have measurable. So you can say weight, which I don't like to measure anybody by weight, because weight doesn't really matter. Like I said, weight consists of 2 things. It consists of your lean body mass, and it also consists of your fat mass. So lean body mass is your muscle, your hair, your bones, things like that. But the only way that truly goes up or down is if you're increasing your muscle, or if you're Greek and you have a lot of hair. I'm messing with all the Greek people. One of my best friends is Greek, and I make fun of him all the time for being really hairy. So the only way that your lean body mass is going to be affected is if you're gaining or losing muscle. But the other thing is fat mass. That also makes up your weight. So most people, when they say, I want to lose weight, what they're really telling me is, I want to lose fat. So now that we know that you want to lose fat, how much fat are you really trying to lose? Are you trying to lose, 5 pounds of fat, 10 pounds of fat, 15 pounds of fat? It doesn't matter the number. Make sure that number is measurable. So how do you get your fat mass? So first, understand what your goals are. So if you're 200 pounds and you want to be down to 150 pounds, well, then that's measurable. Even though weight's not a good way to start, that's a measurable thing. That's something that everybody can do. The next thing next thing you need to know is I like to tell people, you have to know what your body fat percentage is, because your body fat percentage is going to give you those 2 numbers that I was telling you. It's going to give you your lean body mass and your fat mass, because again, your weight consists of 2 things. It consists of your lean body mass and your fat mass. Now, nobody really wants to lose lean body mass. Again, you're losing your hair, you're losing your bones, you're losing your muscle. That's the kind of weight we don't want to lose. So that's the weight that we're either going to increase, as crazy as that sounds. We're going to increase the weight in that particular section. But what we really want to lose is that fat mass. And by getting your body fat, you'll be able to determine what your fat mass is. So if somebody is 200 pounds and they have 20% body fat, we'll just do the math really quick. You do 20% of 200, that's, 40? And so you have 160 pounds of lean body mass. Excuse me, 100. I'm a science major. I'm not a math major. So no, it's 160 pounds of lean body mass and 40 pounds of fat mass. And so you have those numbers there. So now you know that you have 40 pounds of fat on your body. So how much fat are you really trying to lose of that 40 pounds? Well, you can say you want to get, lose 10 pounds of fat, and that's a huge, huge difference. So make your goals measurable. Also, you can have goals like, I want to work out 5 days a week. That's a very measurable goal. You have a number that you can measure that. So you have 5 days a week that I'm going to do weight training, 5 days a week that I'm going to do cardio. And that's what your goal is. And so those are okay goals to have. You heard me talk about make sure that your plan is realistic, but your goals, shoot for the stars. If you want to work out 7 days a week and that's your eventual goal, then put it down. You want to be able to do that. We'll get to the steps part in here in a second, but make your goals measurable. So again, what is your weight? How much weight are you trying to lose? How much body fat are you trying to lose? How many days a week are you trying to work out? Are you trying to run a marathon? Are you, trying to do a triathlon? Are you just trying to walk a 5K? What are your goals? Write those things down and make those things measurable. If you're trying to run a marathon, what's your time? How much time are you trying to complete that marathon in? So these are all things that are measurable. So that's an easy thing. Create our goals. I mean, we do that in our sleep. We know how to do that every single day. We talk about what we want to do. So writing the goals down is a very easy thing to do. So that's step number 2. What are your goals? Step number 3, this is probably one of the hardest parts of this entire thing because most people don't know where to even start. So where are you now? Okay, so this goes back to, how much do you weigh right now? You got to take some baseline measurements. How much do you weigh? Are you trying to lose blood pressure? If your goal was, to get your blood pressure to normal, 120/80, then where is your blood pressure right now? If your goal is to work out 5 days a week, how many days a week are you working out now? How many days a week are you doing weight training right now? How many days a week are you doing cardio? These are all questions that you can ask yourself, very detailed. So ask yourself, if you're doing weight training, how many sets and reps are you doing of a particular thing? How much time are you spending in the gym when you're doing your weight training? And how many days of the week are you doing that? So these are all simple questions that you can ask yourself, and you have to write those answers down. I always have people write down what their goals are, write down where they are right now so they can see them side by side. It's really important that you're able to see them side by side because it'll go to our next step. But if you're asking yourself about cardio, how many days a week are you doing cardio right now? How many days a week, what's your intensity at? What type of cardio are you doing? Are you walking on a treadmill? Is your heart rate getting above a certain point or staying at a certain point? These are all things that you need to know. And I might be throwing questions out there that you've never thought of, but when you want specific results, you have to have a specific program, and you have to get down to the specific details of what is actually going on. Sometimes in this section of where are you now, people say, I'm not working out. I'm 300 pounds. I don't do any weights, I don't do any cardio. I don't do any weights. And that's where I am right now. So sometimes that's the easiest part. But to really start getting down into the details, you have to know, body fat percentage. You have to know, what your heart rate is if you're working out. There's a lot of other details that you need to know. So a lot of people, they don't want to go through this process with themselves. So they'll hire a professional like me to take them through this process. And, I can do this stuff in my sleep, and I know what questions to ask people, but these are things that you have to ask yourself. So now that we've gone over the first step, the second step, and the third step of where are you now we can create the baby step program. And so the next thing is the step number 4 is to create baby steps to help you get there. Now, this is why it's important to write your things down. If your goal is to lose 50 pounds, and right now, you're 50 pounds over the weight that you want, the next step to move in that direction is to lose 5 pounds. The next step after that is to lose 10 pounds. The next step after that is to lose 15 pounds. And so you have to create a step like that. But let's get a little more specific. Let's say that you're not working out any days per week right now. Okay, that's where you are now. And your goal is to work out 5 days a week. Well, the next step is to work out 1 day a week. And it may sound ridiculous, but that's what you want to do. Then the next step after that would be 2 days a week. Then the next step after that would be 3 days a week. If you feel you can skip one step to the other, that's fine. If you feel, you know what, I can go 3 days a week if I just make myself, that's fine. Go ahead and skip to 3 days a week. But understand that if you don't get to that 3 days a week let's say the first week you go 3 days a week, the second week you go 3 days a week, but the third week you only go twice a week. Don't be disappointed in yourself because you only went twice a week. Go back and think about where you were when you first started, which you should have written down. And now you see, hey, look, you know what? I may not have reached my goal of 3 days per week, but at least I did 2 days a week, which is better than what I was doing before. And so you have to be a little forgiving to yourself, and you have to understand, where you were before and where you are now and how you are in a better point. And that will help you and keep you from stopping your program. So, so how many days a week are you doing your weight training, and what are your goals? Create a baby step to get to that point. Now, they say it takes 21 days to create a habit. If it takes 21 days to create a habit, then give yourself 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks, 21 days. Give yourself 3 weeks to go in 2 or 3 times a week. If you've gone in, for a 3 week time period and you've gone in 3 times a week to the gym, then chances are you probably have created a pretty good habit. I actually like to change my workout programs every 4 weeks because it takes me 3 weeks to create that habit, and then it takes me another week to really solidify that I have it, and then I'm ready for the next challenge, and then I create my new program. And I'll do the same thing. I create a new program, new intensities, new types of things like that, new exercises, and I will solidify it for 3 weeks and make that a habit. And then the 4th week, I just go in there and just say, yes, this is my habit. I've done it. I've done it as many times as I want to this week, and then I change my program. So every 4 weeks, I'm constantly changing my program, so I'm not getting bored with it. So now that you've been able to understand that this is a change for a lifetime, that you have your goals and they're measurable, and then you say, where are you now? And you have those things. Now you can create that baby step program, and you have to be extremely forgiving to yourself. So back to story time. Last week I told a story about a person named Gary who came in and said, I wanted to work out 5 days a week. That was his goal. I sat down and went through this 4-step program with him, and he said, yes, it's a lifetime change. And then we sat down and we wrote out his goals. And then we figured out where he was, and I went through all the details and figured it all out. And I said, okay, what's the next step? He goes, the next step is I'm going to work out 5 days a week. And I was like, wait. That's not a baby step to in the right direction. That's that you're going right to it, And so he wanted to do it his way, and he went straight for 5 days a week. That was his goal. And so he went in the first day, worked out extremely intense like everybody else does. Started on a Monday, and he got so sore that it was really hard for him to come in on Tuesday. Well, luckily he was doing upper body on Tuesday, where he did lower body on Monday. So he came in on Tuesday, and even though he was walking around slow, he did his upper body program. Well, on Wednesday came in. Usually it's that second day that you're the sorest, and he was even more sore on Wednesday, more than he was on Tuesday. And so he was walking around so slow, and it was time to do legs, and he didn't have a great effective leg program because he was extremely sore because he went too intense too quick. Well, Thursday comes around, doesn't show up. Friday comes around, he doesn't show up. For the next 3 to 4, it might have been 6 weeks before I called him, he didn't come to the gym. And so I called him up, and I was like, Gary, where are you? And he said that he was disappointed in himself because he didn't reach his goal of working out 5 days a week. So that's a story of somebody who had these unrealistic ideas and didn't take himself through step number 4, which is taking baby steps to get to that goal. And this is somebody who was disappointed in himself because he didn't get there. So he quit. And that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people get to that point where they're disappointed because they didn't reach their goals. But he wanted to reach his goals in week 1. He wanted to reach his goals in week 2. If you ask any successful person, you ask them, how long did it take you to reach your goals? And none of them will tell you a week. None of them will tell you 2 weeks. None of them will even tell you a year sometimes. Sometimes it takes a long time for us to achieve those goals. But when it comes to exercise, we think we can achieve those goals right away. And the truth is we can't always do that. There's some freaks out there who can do it, who can say, I'm going to work out 6 days a week. And for the next 2 years, they work out 6 days a week. But there aren't many people out there like that. So I want to tell you a story of a person who I have been working with for almost 8 to 9 years now. And he is just an absolute incredible story. It's a gentleman named Vince. And Vince it was an interesting story. Vince came to me, and he basically had gone to the doctor, and the doctor told him, "Hey, you need to start exercising. Your life is in danger." He was probably about 45 at the time, and he had this rare spinal condition where his whole spine is fused together by massive bone growth. He can't turn his head right or left. He can't twist his body. He can't even do an ab crunch because his whole spine is fused together by bone growth. And if any of that bone is broken off, it can sever his spine. It can hit a nerve. It can sever a nerve, and he can go paralyzed. So we have to be very, very careful with what he can do. So for a long time in his life, for about 10 or 15 years, when he was diagnosed with this, he kind of had a small pity party for himself and allowed himself to gain all kinds of weight. So he came into me. He was 265 pounds, and he's like, my doctor says I need to do something. So he starts working out, and I remember the excuse. He's like, he's an IT guy. And when I say an IT nerd, I say this in the most loving way. He is the biggest IT nerd, but he's also one of my best friends in the entire world. But he is an IT nerd to the T, watches Star Wars, plays, computer games, does all that stuff. A typical IT nerd, knows everything about computers and this and that. So he watched Star Trek back in the day. He was one of the early adopters of Radio Shack. Your typical nerd, but I love the guy to death. But so I can talk about him. It's fun. So anyhow, he was 265 pounds, and he's like, I don't have a lot of time to work out. I'm very busy at work, and I just don't have time to do it. And I was like, well, I get that. How many days a week can you come in and work out? And so he's like, twice. So I set him up with one of the trainers that I had that worked for me, and the guy started working him twice a week. And so twice a week all of a sudden became 3 times a week. Well, then 3 times a week eventually came 4 times a week. And then 4 times a week led to 5 times a week. And then 5 times a week leads to now 6 days per week that he exercises. And at one point he was able to lose 110 pounds of fat. And why was he able to be so successful? Well, number one, we created a plan for him that wasn't overly demanding. It was like, we're not trying to make you lose 110 pounds of fat in a month. We're not even trying to get there in 3 months. All we care about is you just getting into the gym and doing something to A, relieve stress, but B, just to make your body healthy. Take all this extra weight that your spine shouldn't even be supporting and that your knees and your joints shouldn't be supporting, and let's just take a slow progression to that point. You obviously right now or don't want to work out more than twice a week because you're telling me you don't have time. So let's just say, you can only do twice a week. Let's work with that. And I knew in the back of my mind, my eventual goal was to get him to do 4 to 5 times a week. Never did I ever think I'd get him to 6 days a week, but my eventual goal was 4 to 5 times a week for him. Even though I didn't tell him that, I was willing to accept that he was only going to work out twice a week. So I was fine with that. So we did twice a week. And like I said, we just slowly progressed. And it may have taken 3 months before we were able to go to 3 times a week. And probably another 3 months before we were able to go to 4 times a week. And then eventually he started making time to come in and work out because he saw how beneficial it was and how wonderful it was. But it all started because he went through these certain steps whenever we sat down and did his initial assessment. Now, he may not have known that this was going to be a lifetime change, but luckily he was working with me, and that's my mindset. Everything that I do and everything that I teach people is all about a lifetime change. And since then, he's been able to keep all the weight off. He's been extremely successful. And like I said, he's working out 6 days per week, and he's an absolute monster. And that's one of the greatest success stories that I've ever had from a physical standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint, because he's grown tremendously. Even being 45 years old, they say you can't teach old dog new tricks, but he was willing to take on the challenge. He was willing to do those things, and he just became a huge success. And like I said, I love the guy to death. He's been an amazing story, but he went through these 4 steps. And it took him, he probably went through step number, I'll tell you exactly. Even though I have these steps in this particular order, he actually flipped these around a little bit. He started off, he needed to have goals that were measurable. So I sat down with him there. He needed to know where he was. So I sat down with him there. And then I created a baby step plan with him. Now, it took me some time. It took me 3 or 4 months, maybe even 6 months, to get him to a point where he finally understood that it was going to be a lifetime change, and it finally hit him. So it took him a while to go through all these things, but eventually he went through all 4 steps. So I would love to take you through this 4-step program, sit down with you, talk to you about how we can help you see your results. Please, if you have any questions or you want to go through this 4-step program and you want to sit down with me and go through this program, email me at info@ifitmodel.com. I would love to work with you. I would love for you to be one of my amazing success stories, or a success story of any of my coaches. I have 6 coaches under me who are absolutely amazing, who I've all personally worked with and trained, and they really know their stuff, and they know how to slowly progress people, but they also know how to get people that are extremely advanced and take them to that ultimate level. So no matter what your fitness level is, no matter what your goals are, we can absolutely help you. Feel free to send me a message at info@ifitmodel.com. Again, that's info@ifitmodel.com. And that's going to wrap up today's show of the 4 Steps to Extreme Results program, the exercise edition. I will see you next week, and we will go over the 4 steps to extreme results, the nutrition edition. See you then, guys.